Hey there, friend. Welcome to the Having a Mom Moment podcast. I am your host, Shannon Warner. This podcast is all about taking a few moments for yourself and reconnecting to the amazing woman behind the title of mom. You have so many plates spinning at any given time between your kids, your partner, your job, maintaining a household, etc., etc. But where does taking time just for you play into that? Let's spend some time together, you and me, right now. We're rebranding a mom moment to those sacred moments you take to fill your cup first. Let's connect, tune in, and tap into what makes us the incredible women that we are. We'll nurture ourselves first so we can be our best selves for those we pour into on a daily basis. We'll also bask in the beautiful wisdom of other moms to learn about the ways in which they've tapped into alignment in their own motherhood journeys. Come on, mama, it's your time. We're having a mom moment. Hello, my friends. Welcome to this week's episode of the Having a Mom Moment podcast. I am your host, Shannon Warner, and I am so honored that you chose to spend your time with me here today. This week's guest is Kristin Schmoke. Kristin is a mother of 4, God bless her, teacher and certified parent coach. She is passionate about helping families communicate in a more calm manner, create better connections, and enjoy parenting. She reminds us that it's a-okay to need a little bit of help on our parenting journeys. I hope you enjoy the episode. Hi, Kristin. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Kristin and I were just chatting before we started recording, and we're both Michigan natives. So that's fun. I'm excited to have another Michigander on, even though you're no longer living here with us.
I always love connecting with fellow Michiganders.
I know. I feel like it's a special club. I'm like, you don't know what we've been through growing up in Michigan. It's a whole thing.
The winters are next level.
They are for sure. And the lack of sunshine is next level for sure. So I really love to have my guests start by sharing their own motherhood journeys. So would you mind sharing a little bit about yours?
Yeah, sure thing. I've been doing this motherhood thing for a while. My oldest will be 20 in the fall here, coming up soon. So I have four children. And I remember being really scared when I got pregnant. Like I didn't feel like I was quite ready. My husband was really excited. He was ready. And I remember being like, oh boy, like he has no idea what this entailed. Like this is responsibility and schedules and all of the things. But anyways, was really happy then once the baby came and we were in it, everything was great. But as we went along, I think it's natural for people to kind of parent the way their parents parented. And so that's what I was doing, and it was great and everything was fine. And then it wasn't, because it turns out that my child didn't fit in that style of parenting. And what I really appreciate about my child is that he is not afraid to be himself, and he is not afraid to challenge the borders. He's not afraid to test the limits. He's not afraid to say his mind. Well, that didn't always go over very well as we were parenting. And so that kind of created some negative feelings, disconnect, failed expectations, and all of the above. And so we had some bumpy years there. Not to mention he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So that kind of like threw a monkey wrench in it. And I feel like that really took me down a detour that I didn't appreciate, well, that it didn't work out well for us.
Yeah.
But turns out, like, we found ourselves, we were able to reconnect. We actually have an amazing relationship now. I don't think it's unusual for families to kind of have that experience at some point. Whether you experience it early on or a little bit later, I feel like everybody kind of loses their way for a little bit and then back to it. But that's where the lessons are. So we learned some really amazing things along the way.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I hear this a lot, and I've experienced it myself. I know, my father, for example, parent of a World War II veteran, very like this is the rules, you follow the rules, whatever. And then trying to perpetuate that. And you're like, I have one of those too, our 6-year-old. She's just like, why are we doing it this way? And I don't agree. And I'm going to tell you. And it's like, I think it's so beautiful, but it's so challenging.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel like that wasn't really talked about at the time that my son was going through this, and or was presenting this way, and I was
Mhm.
like, oh, "You're telling me no? What? But I'm the parent,
Yeah.
and you're not supposed to tell me no." And so what? How do I respond? I respond bigger and more intense, right? To try to intimidate him into doing what I needed. Is that the way to foster a good relationship? What I found out was that's not
Mm.
the way to do that. And I only had to learn that through doing it, right?
Yes. Right. We're all perfect parents before we have children.
Absolutely. Before I had kids, I was an elementary school teacher. I have a master's in education. Like I was like, I know kids, I know child development, I got this. And then I got him,
Yeah.
and he actually showed me a new way to be more compassionate to other people. And you really truly don't have any idea what another person's going through. But also, you can have really good parents who are involved and who love you, and you can still have a challenging child. Like
Yeah.
whereas I think when I was really young, I used to be like, oh, their parents aren't involved, or oh, they're bad parents. And it was easy to throw that judgment around because, of course, I didn't have kids, so I was
Right.
perfect. But I think it was really eye opening to see like, okay, I'm an involved parent and I care deeply, and I'm still getting it wrong.
Yes. That so resonates. I also used to be a classroom teacher, and it's funny. I keep bumping into other former teachers, but I left before I had children. And I think if I had stayed, it would really have changed my outlook as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So, can we dig in for a moment? You've left the classroom? Yes. Or
Yes and no.
yes and no?
I keep leaving and I keep coming back.
Interesting.
So over the years, I've been in and out of the classroom. I've taught everything from 2.5-year-olds to college age students.
Mhm.
But I feel like my most cyclical career has been preschool to first grade. I did leave the classroom in 2020
Mm.
to start a parent coaching business, and then we moved our family across the country to Tennessee. I really felt like I needed to not work from home, that I needed to, immerse myself in the community so I could meet people. Because otherwise I wasn't going to have any friends.
Yeah.
And so I took a teaching job at the school that my children are at. And so
Okay.
I've been working there for the last 2 years, but
Okay.
also parent coaching.
Yeah. So, what are you teaching now?
So actually right now I am the assistant director of our extended care program, and we run all sorts of like enrichment courses, like karate after school and an art class and gymnastics and robotics and all those kind of fun things.
I love that. Well, as a former latchkey kid, I love to hear that there's more opportunities out there and programs that are actually enrichment instead of just holding space for kids whose parents that work late.
Yes, exactly. More than just having to sit in the cafeteria at a table for an hour.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, literally my life for like second and third grade, totally.
Yep.
Aw. So can we talk about your parent coaching business? I imagine your experience with your child spurred this.
For sure. Absolutely. I found I went and got certified as a parent coach through JAI Institute for Parents, and it's I started it in 2020 when everybody was online, right? Everybody was
Mhm.
home and had all this extra time to do all these things. So that's when I did it. And I probably say, I always feel like some people come to certain knowledge at a younger age, and I wish I had come to this information at a much younger age than I did, but can't change it. So I came to it when I did. So my son was like 16 when that finally happened. But the tipping point for me was when I told him to get out,
Oh.
because I've always thought that I've been a really patient parent and a kind parent and fun. I came up with all these great activities. I mean, heck, we had a beach day in the middle of January in our kitchen where we
Oh.
turned up the heat and did a pool and all that stuff when they were
Oh my
little.
gosh.
And I did all these really fun things, but I found once I was really good with them when they were little. And once they became middle schoolers and high schoolers, I didn't really know how to connect with them.
Mm.
And I kind of lost that connection. And like I said, my oldest had a tendency to push the boundaries, and my response was to get bigger and to get louder. And I didn't ever feel good. I didn't like the yelling. I didn't like that, but I didn't know what else to do. I felt like I was losing control.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is I never had control because none of us actually have control. But in my perception was that I had control. And so I was trying to regain it. And he and I got in a big argument, and I was like, I've had enough. You need to get out. And so basically, I kicked him off the night. So he went and spent the night with a friend. And it was after he left that it was like, what am I doing?
Mm.
What am I doing? Like, what's the goal here?
Right.
For me to feel safe, for me to feel good? Because I don't feel good right now. So that's bad. He certainly doesn't feel good right now because I asked him to leave. So what are you going to do about it? And I really truly felt like I was kind of stuck. And you can read all the books, you can listen to all the things. And if you still don't know how to put it into action in your life, then you're not changing it, right? You just have that information, and that information isn't actually being put into action. So there's no change. And I feel like as soon as I changed that, our relationship changed almost instantly because he could feel the difference. Because as a parent, we set the pace, right? We set the temperature for the room, we set the temperature for the relationship. And when I'm running hot with like yelling and control, he feels that. And it's normal for people to go, you know what, I don't like that, and resist it. You don't ever get anybody to do what you want by yelling at them. I mean, you could try to intimidate them to do it, but they're not going to do it because they want to do it. They're doing it because they're scared.
Exactly.
But when I ran a little bit more cooler, I wouldn't say cooler would be like completely dismissive, where I would like shut off my emotion because I couldn't handle the interactions with them. So then that became very like transactional. I need you to go empty the trash. I need you to go do your dishes. You haven't washed your sheets, you know, like whatever, like just stupid stuff.
Yeah.
But I found when I was right in the middle, like the green area, it was amazing. But I found myself vacillating from really hot to really cold, really hot to really cold. And I had a hard time sticking in that green area. So when I got trained as a parent coach, it really showed me how to manage that and to achieve that sweet spot, so to speak.
Yeah. What are some tips for people who find themselves going between the hot and cold? Some simple strategies that maybe they can use to get more consistent in that green area.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing the first thing you have to do is be aware of it.
Yeah.
Because before I was aware of it, it was just happening, and it was a runaway train, and I didn't even know. The first thing is to be aware of it. And the second thing is to be aware of certain situations that are consistent, because humans are very repetitive, right? If you go to a classroom, you'll always sit in the same seat, even if you don't have an assigned seat. That's just, we're just naturally like naturally that way. And so if you can find that there's certain situations or certain times of the day that are more triggering for you, you're going to start to be aware of that, right? And when you become aware of it, that's when you can start to tune into yourself. So tune into yourself. You know, everybody says, oh, like take deep breaths. Well, that's great. I think deep breathing is amazing. But if you don't really know how to do it, it doesn't help you, right? So there's different ways for people to regulate their nervous system. Some people like to wash their hands in cold water to kind of bring themselves back to present. Some people like to just get outside for a few minutes, take a couple of breaths outside, or find something that they can appreciate or enjoy or are grateful for as they're outside looking. So people go for a quick walk, get a little exercise in. There's lots of different ways that you can kind of bring yourself back to regulation. I always tell parents that parenthood or parenting is not an emergency, meaning we respond to our kids in certain situations as like, I have to deal with this now, right now. That's not true. What you need to deal with is your emotions and regulating yourself first.
Yeah. It's so important. Yeah.
So take a few minutes, regulate yourself, know that you're fully regulated. Then you can go back and.
Mm-hmm. And I found even with my little one, or well, she's little in comparison to your kids. She's 6.5 almost now, but I'm able to tell her like, I need a minute, we'll discuss this in a few minutes, but I need you to go be over there. I'm going to go be over here and we'll revisit this when we're both a little bit better. Because when you're elevated, like responding from that elevated state is not going to be positive for either of you. And like you said, like you feel icky about it at the end. You're like, well, this feels terrible for both of us.
Well, oftentimes, I mean, I find that I resort to sarcasm at that time and name calling. Like, well, how does that benefit my child when I'm triggered? So I'd much rather say to them, hey, I need a break. Like I always say, the power of the pause is just priceless. Just recognizing I need a moment. I need a moment. Because if you don't take that moment, you're doing damage and then you have to go repair that.
Yeah.
And when I was teaching first grade, we used to take a big heart construction paper and then we would crumple it up. And then we would flatten it back out. We would talk about how that heart's never exactly the same again, right?
Yeah.
You can apologize to it, but there are still crinkles in that heart, right? You can't ever fully get them out. And so while we apologize and make it better because we're humans and we make mistakes, there is still an impact.
Yeah.
It's not as big of an impact as if you didn't apologize and you just let it go. But we want to be careful of the things we say and do. And so take that moment to pause, take that moment to reflect on yourself. Be like, okay, wait a minute. What are my goals in this situation? Are my goals right now to kick my kid out of the house? No, that's definitely not my goal.
Right.
My goal right now is to find peace. How can I find peace?
Yeah. We've had experiences. My husband and I, we're good, like a tag team situation where I'm like, I'm tapping out. I need you to step in, but it's like, what are we actually arguing about with her right now? Like picking her socks and underwear up off the floor. Like, is this really worth it? Like,
yeah, you have to figure out like, what's the battle that you need to have today? Is that worth the battle? And sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. But I always talk to families about like, what are your values? Are your family values that your house be neat and tidy at every moment?
Right.
Maybe that's a family value. And if that's a family value, then great. But you can't have 50 family values. And the reason you can't have 50 is because you can't keep up with them.
Right. So what do you suggest?
I always tell people focus on 3 because that's a manageable amount, right? You can remember them. And then and then they might like shift and evolve over time. It's fine. But start with 3 and really look at those 3 because those are ones you can uphold and you can keep up with.
Yeah. So for someone who's like, I don't know what our values are, what are some that you've seen people use that are positive and impactful in their own homes?
Yeah, absolutely. So hardworking can be a family value or work ethic, whatever you want to say there. Maybe volunteering is a family value. Certainly, everybody helps out. I feel like is a big family value. I hear a lot of like people wanting everybody to help with the household chores.
Like that.
Maybe finances. So chores with money attached to them and how we handle our money and being responsible with money there. Just responsibility in general can be a family value. Health and like healthy foods, maybe exercise. Those are family values that people might have.
So it can really be anything then. Anything that resonates with you and that you want to uphold within your children. Okay.
Any major lessons you want your children to walk away with would be one. So like maybe kindness is yours. Great. What does that look like in your house? And how are you all exhibiting kindness, not just your child?
Yeah, that's a big one for us. I feel like that's what we keep coming back to. But she's usually kind, So it's like, again, is this battle really worth it about asking her to pick her toys up? Like, looking at it through that lens is really refreshing, actually. Yeah. Interesting.
Good.
So, I like this. And I have littles, I know. And there are moments where I'm like, and she's so beautiful and so wonderful But when she has these moments where she flips the switch, it's such a contrast. So it's like whiplash, you're like, wait a minute, come back. Come back, the sweet little angel that I was talking to 10 minutes ago.
But when she flips that switch, you can't talk to her. Like if you mean flip the switch, like she got really emotional,
she
can't
escalates.
talk to her. Yeah, you can't talk to her in that time because she's emotional, right? So what we know about the brain says that she's working in her amygdala at that point, which means that it's a caveman brain, the lizard brain. I always tell everybody it's think of a caveman. You can do grunts, groans, and food. Like that's it. And if she is still in that state, you can't rationalize with her.
Yeah.
Because she's not available for that.
You're so right. But I've heard things like, oh, do you want someone to send you away when you're upset? And because sometimes we're like, you need to take a minute in your room. We're not like banishing you, but we're like, we need you to take a minute and go, take a few minutes and then we'll revisit this together, which also gives us space. But you're right. You can't reason with her when she's up there in those levels.
Nope.
Oh, so interesting. And I know this holds true for other ages too.
She'll just keep escalating it.
Yeah.
And then you will eventually get triggered and escalate.
Absolutely. 100%.
There'll be something she says that just gets you.
Yeah, I know. And then I switch back to like, oh my gosh, if I had pulled this when I was a kid, and then that's also triggering. Whew.
Yep. Totally. My husband said that the other day. He's like, I would have never been able to get away with this as a kid. Like, that doesn't make your parents right.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, we're all like repeating patterns, so I still believe, my big scary dad, who I love dearly, but like was just doing the best he could with what he had. But he was a big guy and he was intimidating and like, that's what he worked with. And it worked. I mean, I was terrified of getting in trouble, but.
Yeah, but it came with a cost, right?
Yeah.
It came with a cost. And I don't think any parents from previous generations didn't do the best they could with what they had.
Right.
Like I don't feel like it's healthy to go and like point the finger and blame. I think it's important to reflect and go, oh, interesting. That's a trigger for me. I wonder why that is. Okay. It's a trigger for me. Oh, that's right. My parents didn't let me do that. Okay. What's been the impact on that? From me not being able to does that mean I'm not getting my voice heard? Does that mean I'm not, making decisions for myself? Like, what does that mean to me? Okay. And is that a big deal for me in my parenting with my own child?
Yeah. Have you found because you have 4 children, so it sounds like the one is the one who really kind of challenged you. Did you find that you had to adjust your parenting styles with your other 3 children?
Yeah, I mean, because he was my oldest, kind of paved the way and was kind of, challenging. He was absolutely challenging. He's also neurodivergent, and I was like, I thought I was really good with that, and then I wasn't.
Yeah.
But I found that for a long time in my parenting, I used to joke that I spend 98% of my time on him and 2% on the other 3 divided. And so how fair is that? Right?
Yeah.
No wonder he was resisting everything I did because I was smothering him. I was there over his shoulder watching every move. I mean, not literally, but I'm sure it felt that way. And I didn't think of myself as a helicopter parent or in any that way, but I think sometimes you, like I said, like the life experiences or life events happened and it caused me to become that way. When he was 9 years old, he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Well, that was really scary. And so then of course I go down the rabbit hole of reading and listening to all of these things on what you should do to help manage type 1 diabetes and help him live longer and all these things. Well, but what I forgot about was him and how he felt about his life and diabetes. And I was just looking at it like, we're going to take care of you, like no sugar for you. And you're going to eat really healthy and you're going to live a really long life. Well, at 9, he doesn't care about that. He wants to eat the cupcake at the birthday party.
Fair.
I couldn't see that at the time.
Wow.
I went into overdrive and I recognized that while I thought I was doing good, I didn't necessarily.
What a challenge though, because at the end of the day, all we want to do is protect and make them safe. And especially with something like this health situation that he's going to have to face for his entire life. Like, of course, you want to set him up for success because you don't want to lose him, but I can't imagine.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of felt like he was gifted back to us, right? Because there was a time we took him to the emergency room and he was in ICU and they were like, we won't know for another 24 hours if he's going to make it. And I was like, what?
Oh my God.
And I just got goosebumps again. But it's just, I really felt like he was gifted back to us. Wow. And so I approached it in the only way I knew how, which was to try to control it.
Yeah. And then with this personality type that he had, I'm sure it just exacerbated. Yeah.
Exactly. But also, I mean, he was good for a little while, right?
Yeah.
9, 10, 11, but then right around 12, he was like, all right, enough, mom.
Yeah.
Back off.
Yeah. I think it's interesting too. You are one of several women that I've spoken to who now do what they do because of their experience as a mother. They would have never jumped into parenting, I could see, we probably wouldn't jump into that if you were childless, but it's like, you are just another one of the many who are like, I need to do something else. I need to help other parents. Now that I'm a mother, I see things so differently. And I think it's so beautiful how transformative the motherhood journey is and how it can catapult you into a whole new space. I'm sure it makes you a better teacher, like you said, because you see children so differently. And yeah, it's really phenomenal.
Yes, to all of that. I would not have been here if I had not had him, right? Yeah. But also, I would not have been here if I hadn't heard other parents about how insufficient they feel. Oh, I really should have gone into education because I would have known XYZ. And I'm like, no, going into education teaches you how to manage a classroom of 28 kids. It doesn't teach you how to, really connect with your child. And those are things that you have to learn along the way and recognize that those are the real gifts. That's the real value there. So they can feel safe and they can feel seen. And when they feel safe and seen, they feel loved.
Yeah. That's so huge what you just said too. It's been interesting being on the other side of the table during a parent teacher conference. I used to hold them and now I'm like, is she okay here? Is she okay on this level? Social emotional, is she fine? And yeah, you still don't have the answers even as a teacher. So
no, you don't. I mean, and I don't know that anybody has all the answers, right? Every child's unique, every situation's unique, but I do think that every parent has the most impact and they are the biggest teacher in their child's life. And if you can teach your child at home what it's like to have a good, solid relationship and what it's like to have to express kindness and to give kindness and to receive it and to show compassion and to help other people out. These are the lessons that they will carry with them for life. Because I noticed as a teacher, at the end of the school year, they still go home to their parents. And the next year, I would see them. I was like, hey, I taught you that. Like, different than that. And they would be like, oh, but it didn't make a lasting impact because I'm not there with them repetitively giving them those lessons. Who is? The parents.
Yes.
And that's made me change. I realized as an educator, I was on a hamster wheel. I was never going to get to the end of the race.
Yeah. And mom and dad are queen and king at the end of the day. You can say whatever you want to your blue in the face, but if they're not getting the consistent message at home, if this is not how mom and dad operate, then it doesn't matter what you say. And they may, like you said, they'll probably walk the line in your classroom, but it won't hold. Yeah.
Right. Or they'll come home and tell their parents about it. But if their parents dismiss it or
oh my gosh,
are not even paying attention or don't pick up that path as well, it's all for naught.
Yeah. I need to connect you with someone. Her name is Donna, and I was a guest on her podcast. I'll send you her information because I think you'd be a great contact for her podcast. But it was a big thing that I talked about. She asked me to come on as a parent and former educator. And it was like, the biggest thing I could say is you are on a team with your child's teacher. And as parents, you need to back up and support your teacher as much as possible. Because if you undermine the teacher, of course, if there's something really off the wall going on, that's a special case. But in general, like, you can't undermine what your child's teacher is doing, because you're just going to send them back into that environment, and they're going to be like, I'm not listening to you. Like, this isn't real, and what you're saying doesn't make any sense to me because my mom said XYZ. So just holding that space of support.
It's a three-legged stool, right? If you're missing one component of it, the stool falls over. So you've got the teacher, the parent, and the child. But also, if the parent is talking trash about the teacher at home, that child that's got that mindset, like, I don't have to listen to you, or and then are they going to miss out on the lessons? I always say that maybe that people are put into your life not necessarily for the education purpose of like academics, but there might be other lessons that you've learned from. Maybe you 100%. Learn ways you don't want to be. Maybe you learn something else, and you see something else that they're doing. There's lots of lessons to be learned. It just doesn't have to be academics every time.
100%. I totally agree with you. Yeah. And I think you can look back on your own experience in education and look back at the teachers that stood out to you. And it may not be their biology lesson that stood out to you. It was their character and the life lessons that they taught you, or they showed the compassion to you.
How they made you feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good, bad, or indifferent. Like, you'll remember that.
For sure. I like to ask all my guests, and you may have touched on this, but what didn't you expect motherhood to change or shake up in you?
I really thought that I was very well prepared for motherhood and capable. And I did not expect it to, I did not expect to have a contentious relationship with my child.
Who would expect that going into it, right?
No, you don't have a child to be like, we're going to fight all the time. It's great.
Yeah, no. Sign me up.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think I didn't expect that. I was like, I'm going to do all the things. I know all the right things to do. I still lost my way. It happens to all of us.
Yeah. But just like you said, teachers, you end up with those teachers for reasons. Our children, I believe, are assigned to us for a reason. It's no mistake. So
absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I totally believe that.
Yeah. I think that helps too. When it's hard, I'm like, okay, they are mine, specifically mine for a reason. So
yeah. How can I make a positive impact on them?
Yeah, absolutely. If you could give one piece of advice to another mother, what would it be?
Take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean wine out with the girls or a massage. Take care of yourself in the little moments of the day. Find something you can say to yourself that reminds you of how much you're loved. Say something to yourself. Maybe you do tapping. Maybe you give yourself a hug. Maybe there's like a favorite song you like to listen to that makes you feel good. Get outside, take a couple deep breaths. But I feel like in motherhood, moms are expected to do a lot and carry a lot, whether you're working or not working or stay-at-home mom. It's still a lot of hours and it's a lot of responsibility, and you don't have to do it all. It's okay. Trust me, the laundry will still be there tomorrow.
Right. Ask me how I know.
Nobody's doing it. I've tried.
Lastly, how do you reconnect to yourself in motherhood?
I've recently got into meditation, and that feels amazing.
Yeah, lots of people come on the podcast and say meditation. So I'm like, check. I'm like, I'm going to convince everybody to start meditating. Yeah. So thank you for saying that.
Do it.
It's really life-changing, seriously. How can people find you? How can they work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am on Instagram as kristin.schmoke.parenting. I always say the hardest part is spelling my name. I've got two eyes in Kristin, and Schmoke is like smoke, only with CH in there. We got a little sh in our smoke. But yeah, so I'm on Instagram. I have a website, KristinSchmokeCoaching.com.
Awesome. We'll put all that in the show notes so everyone can find you. And yeah, I just hope it encourages people that if they're finding struggles in parenting, like just, reach out for support if you need it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think every parent has some blind spots that they aren't even aware of. I really, truly believe that every parent could benefit from parent coaching. Because had I had that experience at a much younger age, I probably wouldn't have been down the path that I was down. But then I also wouldn't be here today. So I don't know what that looks like, but I wish I could have done it earlier. But the good news is it's never too late.
Right. And it doesn't mean you're failing if you ask for help.
Oh, no, actually, it's better that you ask for help because you're farther ahead than those that don't.
I love that. I love that. Kristin, thank you so much for your time today. This was such an insightful conversation. And I hope the audience comes and finds you if they need some extra support in parenting.
Thank you so much for having me. I truly enjoyed being here.
Kristin, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom on this week's episode. And thank you for the permission slip to, one, acknowledge that parenting can be hard, and two, that it's totally acceptable to get help. Here are this week's key takeaways. 1, you can be very involved and good parents and still have a challenging child. 2, as parents, we set the pace. We set the temperature for the room at that time and the temperature for the whole relationship. 3, awareness in parenting is key. Be aware of consistent situations, environments, or times of the day that are triggering for you. 4, parenting is not an emergency. You don't have to deal with each situation right now. What you need to deal with first is your emotions and regulating yourself first so that you can then regulate your children. 5, the power of the pause is priceless. Being able to recognize I need a moment is so powerful. If you don't give yourself that moment, you can cause damage, and then you have to repair that damage. Reflect, what are my goals in this situation? My goal is to find peace. How can I find peace? 6, parents are the biggest teacher in their child's life. They have the most impact. If you can teach your child at home what it takes to have a good, solid relationship, give kindness, show compassion, help others, these are the lessons they will carry with them for a lifetime. 7, as a mom, take care of yourself in the little moments of the day. Find something you can say to yourself that reminds you how much you're loved. Listen to a favorite song that makes you feel good. Go outside and take a couple of breaths. Moms are expected to carry a lot, and you don't have to do it all. It's okay. And 8, if you're experiencing challenges in parenting, it's okay to ask for help. You're not failing. In fact, you're farther ahead of those who don't. I have so many other beautiful guest episodes coming for you in the coming weeks and months, but I need you to follow or subscribe to the podcast on your preferred platform. And if you really love what we're doing, I would love if you would leave a review. All of these metrics help drive the algorithm and help spread the word about the podcast to new members of the audience. I think mamas need to hear the messages within these episodes, so I would be so honored if you would subscribe and follow and spread the love. Until we meet again, come hang out with me on socials, on Instagram at Having a Mom Moment, or on Facebook at Having a Mom Moment. As this podcast is just for us moms and mamas to be, drop me a DM on either platform or email me at havingamamoment@gmail.com if there's something you'd like to hear about on a future episode. Remember, you are amazing, you are loved, and in case someone else has told you, I am so proud of the fabulous mama that you are. Take care of yourself.